Hello out there, sports fans. Welcome to our podcast today. This is Coach Eric Johnson, the brand.
And this is Coach Aaron Thigpen, the source. EJ, where are you broadcasting from today?
I am in Cary, North Carolina at the USA Baseball Training Complex at the Champions Cup. It's basically a program in USA Baseball for the National Team Identification Series, trying to find those next 12 ball players that go into the Athlete Development Program or the National Team Trials. So I'm here in Cary, North Carolina, checking out prospects for that for Team USA, and also coaching the Northwest region, where I'm the scouting director for the 7 states that represent, the West, really out here in this Champions Cup competition.
Cool. Now, how do athletes get invited or recruited or funneled into that particular event?
Aaron, there are 6 regions across the country that encompasses all 50 states. And in each region, there is a section identifier where it's initial evaluation and we get your metrics on a shuttle run, a 30, a batting fundamental, fielding, and throwing velocity. So we take metrics to get you, see where you're at with your competition. And then that's the first phase of it. After that, there is a combine where we take all the players that we've identified and put them in a on-field situation where you take batting practice, you do an infield, outfield, and you play a game. And then we select you as one of the 18 ball players to come back here to represent your region against other parts of the country at the USA Baseball's training complex in Cary, North Carolina, where they have a task force of about 6 to 8 people that identify the players to get them to one of the USA Baseball's programs, whether it's a national team trials or the athlete development program or the national team development program. And there's a lot of athletes here this week. Just, in our region, Aaron, we have this week, at least, we have the 13U and the 11U. So we've brought 72 athletes from our region to compete to get into 12U USA Baseball Team USA trials for next summer, and also for the 13U guys into the athlete development program with the 13s and 14s next summer. So it's competitive. It's great baseball experience. Whether you make the team or not, it's a great way to kind of see, the competition out there, Aaron, what's happening in, America and baseball. And it's a great place, man. It's a training facility like no other. The fields are outstanding. You meet new people. It's a good baseball experience. I like this week a lot because it gives an athletes the chance to get out and really play without even worried about chasing a trophy. It's kind of nice, man. Just to be honest with you, get to meet some good kids, and it's a good experience.
Cool. Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to a couple of our guys that are out there, Jasar Lopes and Ali Cepeda Jr. So good luck, guys, as you're out there and competing. Now, down to business.
Yes.
Today's subject, kicking off the off season. And I guess we're just going to kind of riff here with a couple of different subjects or topics within that subject and talk about this point in time in the year and what should be important to you, what should take, priority, what should take second priority, what you may need to walk away from for a while, all of those sorts of things, and kind of positioning your athlete for what's to come for most February of next year.
Right.
So there's a lot of time but that time goes by fast, and there's a lot of ground that needs to be covered. So you want to spend your time wisely. I think what happens for a lot of parents and athletes is because they don't plan and they don't kind of sit down and look at this, they might just get caught up and take the next thing that's offered. You know,
right.
In most cases, that's play some more. Well, you've already just had a full summer, and if you're a high school athlete, you had a full high school season.
Right.
You know, is playing some more really the answer, or is it just something that because it's the first thing put in front of you, you figure, okay, well, we'll do this. And so I kind of want you guys to pump the brakes a little bit, pull out a calendar. I'm a paper and pencil kind of guy. I don't do my calendar on the phone. I like a big,
a big
calendar in front of me where I can kind of just sit down and map things out. And for those of you kids who don't know what a map is, it's one of those paper folding things where you used to plot where you're going to go. It was a long time before
oh gosh,
GPS and
right.
Waze and all the rest of that. But you know, I think that's what's called for right now is sitting down saying, hey, who are the players in my athlete's life right now, or who should be at this point in time, and kind of talking with them, getting their thoughts, figuring out, you know, what the next 5-6 months should look like so we can maximize this time so that we have a better athlete in the spring. Not
right.
just faster, stronger, but better. So how do you want to kick this off, EJ?
Well, I'm going to show you my map, okay? Aaron, see that? All that stuff in July right there, buddy. There you go. I got the same thing you have, my friend. And it leads me to this next map, okay? Again, we talk about mapping stuff out. People, if you can't see this, you're here looking at this. This is a blank sheet in August. Nothing's there. And it stays blank for 5 weeks. To give our athletes an opportunity to pump the brakes, slow down, get some rest, recover. And I think it's important. You know, we kind of map things out all year. And if you haven't mapped stuff out, you know, I think you could be at what I call burnout, getting close to burnout. A non-engaged athlete where they are, you know, like, oh, do I have to play in the fall? I'm kind of tired from the summer kind of thing because they never took a break. So, you know, I kind of agree with you, Aaron. I mean, at the end of the day, managing your schedule is crucial. And you're right, you got to pump the brakes a little bit. Taking a break is not a bad thing, Aaron. It gives you a chance to recover and slow down a little bit and heal up from the summer. The summer was a long summer. It was and here's something interesting too, Aaron. It was very hot across the country this summer, all over the place. It wasn't just like sometimes, you know, it's a little warmer here or there. It was a heat wave going through. So I think guys were exhausted a little bit if they weren't hydrated. But pumping the brakes is good. I think I can riff on a lot of things, Aaron. I'd start with the younger guys, to be quite honest with you. Those young guys that are chasing things. There's a lot of events still going on. It seems like the calendar is filled of events for all sports 12 months out of the year. And I think the younger guys, look, and I'm coming from the baseball standpoint, take a break right now. I mean, you've got, you know, fall's coming up. Take a little break before you jump back into your fall. It's not going to hurt you. And I really say that to the 9, 10, 11, 12, 13s, 14, 15-year-old athletes that, you know, you're chasing something. What are you chasing? Is it a trophy? Is it the next ranking? Is it the tournament that you need to, where is it going to really get you at the end of the day? You know, so that's a different trajectory, Aaron. You know, I can talk on that one, you know, first, and then the second one, just to give everyone a little precursor, are the high school guys, you know, where, you know, their recruiting calendar is kind of like their roadmap too, in terms of, you know, they have to stay ready right now because of the way the NCAA has taken the recruiting calendar. But even so, then I've given our guys 5 weeks off to try to rest up before they have to really pump it up here in the first week of September and go strong for the next 5 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks. Then I'll shut them down again to get another break. So understand at different ages or different grade years, you need to have an understanding of what you're doing and how you're going about doing it. And you still need to pump the brakes and get some rest and some recovery too. So that's how I'm kind of taking this today, Aaron, a little bit, understanding that.
Well, from the training side, what I tend to do is, I have the athletes take a break. I usually will say at a minimum, take 3 weeks.
Right.
And that's for a couple of reasons. Actually, logistically, it works really well because a lot of kids are starting school. So when you've got so much going on with getting settled back into your school schedule and, all of those sorts of things, this is the perfect time to just say, hey, you know what? Let me just kind of focus on what my life is going to look like from a school standpoint and that schedule and get those things in place versus trying to squeeze in, more lessons, more training,
right.
More competitions. Just, kind of glide through the first 3 weeks, get yourself settled, kind of see how things are panning out and what your schedule is likely to look like moving forward through the rest of the year. For the high school guys, they're just getting back on campus and they've got to figure out, especially if their schools have off-season programs, what's that going to look like? What's the lifting schedule going to look like? What's the running schedule going to look like? What are going to be those demands? And then once you have all that stuff in place, then you can kind of start to figure out, okay, when do I want to reinsert working with the personal trainer or working with an instructional trainer? And how do we add those things in? Or, do we opt to not do the high school stuff and just do your private training stuff? So you kind of use this time to strategize as well as just kind of, again, take that energy and just kind of reset.
Mm-hmm. Aaron, I want to ask you this too, because, these athletes are coming, or should be completed with the summer season or whatever you want to call it. Do you think it's a good time to to evaluate their strengths and weaknesses, and kind of, I guess that's part of the planning part is, pump the brakes, stop and evaluate where you need to get better or what do you really need. And I the reason why I say that, because what you said about, just kind of stopping and figuring out, do you need to, do your own personal training, your high school training, all that stuff kind of fell into this category of kind of an evaluation type process after the season and managing your stuff. And we talk about that a little bit, but maybe that's something we need to tell the viewers about, just evaluating, what just happened.
Yeah, no, I to me, it's always important to look back over the season and say, okay, how did it go? What do I need to work on? What things went well? What things went not so well? What things, totally crashed? Because that gives you, the compass on how to move forward. Then you can say, hey, these are the things that went well. So maybe these things worked for me. These are things that didn't work so well. So maybe now I need to make some changes and adjustments. What in the pecking order or laundry list of things that I have to do, am I going to prioritize these things? And then, what's most appropriate, at certain times of the year. And that can be done yourself, sitting down with your parents. That can be sitting down with your instructional coach. That can be sitting down with your trainer. But yeah, you always want to have some self-reflection on what you did in the past and use that to plan how you're going to move forward. Again, I'm not a big testing guy because I won't go into it, but it's just, I see it as always, it's not always a barometer of how well you're going to play. And so
Yeah.
I get real careful about testing and chasing metrics versus, hey, what's a more holistic approach of how they're accomplishing, how they're progressing? What are my eyes telling me?
Hmm.
As well as, versus just, okay, what I can measure. Because I haven't seen a test yet that really measures, how well you're going to hit a ball, or how well you're going to throw strikes, how
Right.
well you're going to, make a jump shot,
Right.
how well you're going to race a 100-meter dash. So just not of that ilk. But yeah, have that conversation with those around you. As Jason Matthews, one of our
Mhm.
clients, says, your board of directors, and we'll get to that one, Jason.
Get to that one. I like that. What your board of directors says. I love that. Aaron, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
I'm finished.
Yeah. So, kicking off this off season, you got to put things in a priority, right? And kind of figure out what's important to you in order for you to move forward in your trajectory. And I guess what you said just a second ago about you're not big into metrics and stuff. Metrics, when you measure metrics, it takes a while to kind of accumulate that data on your trajectory. It's like, I hear a lot of people saying, well, hey, we just went to this event and it was a month ago. He was this. Now we're back here. He's the same. Why is that? Well, it's just 4 weeks. 4 weeks has just passed. You're not going to see significant jumps, And when you're measuring metrics, it could be over a long haul. You said something important about the ability to throw strikes off the mound. And I'm like thinking, well, that could take a whole year to kind of figure that out on the amount of pitches they threw, how many pitches they threw per batter. And I mean, I agree with you. People get caught up in the metrics too much and don't get caught up in like, can this person perform in the game or the event at that time? How are they doing during that? That's a barometer to me, rather than, his exit speed is 95 and his launch angle is 12.3 degrees. That doesn't mean anything. If you can't make contact, it means nothing to me. So I agree with you. I think we get caught up in that stuff too much, and we need to, slow down on that and say, hey, physically, what do I need to do better? Mentally, what I need to do better. I think if we do that, we don't get burned out in the process, and that could be another subject. Why do athletes get burned out in the process? Here are the reasons why. That's another podcast, I think, down the road. But we need to understand that at certain ages, there are certain things that are important at certain times. And I'll use the high school guys now as example. For instance, their recruiting period is during the fall, one of the periods, and it's for 3.5 weeks. And there's a dead period and a quiet period and a recruiting period. And during that recruiting period, it's only 3.5 weeks this year in the fall. Okay. The quiet period, which can get you on campus and do this stuff, that's only 3.5 weeks. So it's like, okay, so I don't need to go all over America to go chase something and think every college coach is going to find me, right? So in the fall, you got to just, we're kicking off the off season. Be smart. And I always tell high school athletes, be smart. Parents, slow down, pump your brakes. Practice matters now. Get better at your skill and, develop. This is a good time for baseball players to continue their development if they're in high school. It's not a bad time. And especially with those freshmen and sophomores who recruiting is non-existent for them right now, practically. Get better at your skills, work on your game, stuff like that. So I tell that. The seniors and juniors, a little bit different story because they're in the middle of this right now, the height of their serious recruiting period, summer and the fall.
For me, again, I go back to the power of the calendar, because now is when you sit down, especially if you're one of those juniors and seniors, and you look at, okay, what upcoming events do I have? And how much time do I have to reload? Because you really do have to reload after the season. And, do I have 6 weeks? Do I have 8 weeks? What is that reloading period going to look like, so that when I do get out in front of those scouts and those recruiters, I'm at my best, or at least the best I can be at this point in time. So I think that's crucial, versus just, kind of waiting for the calendar to tick by and then saying, okay, I'm going to this event, in November,
Right.
October. So I think that's very important to be, again, to overuse the word, but to be strategic from that standpoint. Have you gotten your power back? Have you gotten your speed back? All of those things wane over time, even for the athletes who do everything they're supposed to do. And by October, November, if you haven't reloaded, there's not going to be anything there. You're going to be fairly flat. So it may be a situation where you have to prioritize and just say, hey, I'm going to work on this aspect. I'm just going to work on, getting some of my strength back. I'm not going to worry about speed. Or if speed is part of your game, then, hey, I've got to get, sharper again. I've got to get my running down, my reflexes, back. Whatever it is that sells you,
Right.
You've got to make sure you hone that and again, reload that so to be ready. For you middle schoolers, I think now's the time you play a different sport.
Wow. Yeah, football. I mean, it's great time for those guys who are dual athletes to play their other sport. I mean, they're going to engage other muscle groups that are important in their health and just maintain of their athleticism and health of their body, right? No
Right.
overuse injuries, right?
And for those who don't play another sport, then now is when you say, okay, well, what part of my game and what part physically do I need to start to work on? And and since you're not playing another sport, then that's kind of what you do as well for some of the younger athletes, or the non-dual sport athletes.
Right. So let me talk about those non-dual sport athletes right now, because they're usually we're finding specialization in one sport getting younger each year, to me, it seems like, Aaron. And what I want to say to those players, parents out there, it's all right not to play in 5 tournaments or 6 tournaments in the fall. You don't have to keep on getting your body overstressing your body. It's all right just to practice. Okay, practice is actually a good thing. You can slow down about, I gotta play this event, I gotta play this. It's a good time to practice and get more athletic. Maybe during practice you incorporate some other things that you wouldn't practice during the normal regular season. Maybe it's a lot more walkthroughs, understanding the game, getting better mentally, understanding about hitting strategies, pitching strategies, how to elevate a fastball if you're a pitcher, that this is an out pitch now, and learning that kind of stuff to help your development, rather than, we got to play this game or this tournament this weekend and we're just doing the same thing over and over again. There needs to be, I think, for those younger players, those middle schoolers and even those elementary kids, hey, pump the brakes and understand that your development and understanding the game and executing certain things in the game, that's what we really need to work on. Execution of a hitting count. You're up 1-0, 2-0 and getting a good pitch to hit. Those things right there, Aaron, I think that's what in off season, we need to start thinking about a little bit.
You kind of reminded me of our podcast with Rob Bruno, where you both talked about, there's a certain time of year where you have scrimmages where learning is the foundation, is the key, where you're having these quasi competitions or scrimmages, but
Right.
you're stopping to teach as well, and the kids are stopping to learn as they're playing the game, versus just worrying about the outcome of winning and losing. So I think this is a great time of year to try and get involved in those sorts of things. From a track and field standpoint, this is when a lot of my kids start to come back in, and they ask about what are we doing, And for most of them, I tell them we're actually just working on developing your sprint IQ, your race IQ. So it's more about the learning aspect for track and field athletes, in my opinion, at this time of year, than it is about the overall just conditioning and running reps and that sort of thing. It's like, hey, now's a time where you're in some decent shape, you got some reflexes, you're not terribly out of shape. Let's try and learn some of the things that are some of the nuances that you need to know so that you have them down and can execute them in the spring. So I would think obviously want to reload, but you also want to kind of work on those technical things where the body isn't so degraded that you develop bad habits, if any of that makes sense.
Right.
So
it does to me make sense, Aaron, what you said. A lot of athletes don't understand that, and that's, you were talking about track and field. That's in any sport. I feel at this day and age about understanding just their bodies and what they need to do.
So kicking off the off season, no one direct correct answer. It's going to look different for all of you guys. But I think it's something that you guys should sit down, again, use the power of the calendar to try and map a course. And yeah, it can change and you may make adjustments and deviations, and that's okay. But have a general idea of how you want to spend your time. For each season, there should be a reason. And you just don't want to, get caught up in just doing one thing over and over again, just because that's the only thing presented to you. Step off of that treadmill, step off of that merry-go-round, and see what else is available to you to further the development of your athlete.
Spoken like a true champion there, Aaron Big Pen. Oh, well, I think that concludes what we want to really hit up as we kick off the off season, Aaron. That kicking off the off season gets us rolling again in our podcast. So we tell all the people out there, hit us up on Hardball Athletics and all our mediums and let us know, drop us a note and let us know what you want to hear coming up as we kick off our fall season, as we are almost ending our summer. So again, this is Coach EJ, the brand.
This is Coach Aaron, the source. We'll see you.